Okay, we all know that communication is important, and it really is. But we also talked about intent and how important your intent is. We now have to talk about your intent being good, but also being reciprocal to what you would want someone else to do for you. And what I mean is this: if you have good intent with someone, then you want to make sure that that person also has good intent with you. But you also must make sure that it's reciprocal. And what I mean by that is, you want that person to give to you just as much as you give, but you also have to be willing to give back to that person what they're giving to you. What I mean is this, and we find this so often in some of our relationships. You might want someone to do things for you in the beginning of the relationship, but that's not reciprocated back to that person. Then that person may feel like, okay, I'm giving in this relationship, but I'm not receiving in return what I'm giving. That's going to lead that person to not feel like they're basically benefiting in this relationship. This is very important, and we have to emphasize this. When it comes to relationship is like an investment. So if you're investing in something and that investment is not giving you a return, then eventually you're going to stop investing in it. You're not going to keep pouring your money into something that's not giving you something back in return. It's the same thing with relationship. It must be an investment that has a return to it. I understand, especially for some of my women, they may look at it as, okay, I'm the person, or I'm the prize, or he should be trying to show me how much he wants to be with me. And all of that is fine, at least to an extent, but it has to be reciprocation. It has to be that you are showing him that you are just as involved in the relationship, that you reciprocate back to him some of the things that he wants and needs from you, so that he can feel like, I'm getting a return on my investment. If he feels like there's no return on his investment, that you're basically just stringing him along and not giving him anything in return, he's just going to eventually phase out and just say, okay, that was a bad investment. I'm just going to cut my losses and I'm going to move on. So it's very important to understand that there must be reciprocation as far as intent is concerned. It cannot be just a situation where one person benefits from the relationship, one person is getting invested in, and the investment keeps coming in, but there's not some reciprocation on the other end for that investment. So we have to look at it from both ways, from both manners of speaking. If you are going to put good seed into the ground, you're going to get a good harvest. But if you put bad seed into the ground, you're going to get a bad harvest. And what I mean is this: later on in life, a lot of times we want to basically receive the bounty of that which we planted. And oftentimes it may not be that we want to get married in our early ages, let's say our 20s. We may want to wait till our 30s to get married. But if we, during our 20s, just planted bad seed, meaning we didn't take care of the seed, we didn't plant the best seed, meaning we didn't have the best relationships, we didn't treat people with the respect that they should have been, we actually were bad to people in relationships, or we took advantage of folks, we didn't treat them fairly, or maybe even lied to them, and knowing that we lied to them and hurt their feelings and misled them, things of that nature. This is bad seed that we're planting. And when you're planting bad seed, you cannot expect good fruit to come from that, or a good harvest to come from that later down the line. So we have to understand that the seeds that you plant and how you plant them, water them, fertilize them, and take care of them now is going to determine the harvest that you get later down the line. What we run into a lot of times is, okay, I planted bad seed, I didn't treat people like I should have, I didn't treat relationships like I should have, but now I want to be married, I want to have the successful relationship, the successful marriage, the dream wedding, all of this stuff. but you planted bad seed years ago, you can only really reap the harvest of what you planted. So what happens? A lot of times when it's time for harvest, it's going to be that bad seed that you planted. It's going to basically give you a bad harvest. And what happens is now you're reaping what you sowed, which is a lot of bad relationships now, a lot of meeting a lot of people that's not right and not treating you right, a lot of people that's not that's lying to you and not doing the right things in relationship. Now, of course, you're saying, oh, well, I'm focused now. I want this good relationship. I want the marriage. But you have to understand, you still have to plant good seed back then in order to get a good harvest. And so this is why this is so important, going back to your intent, and that your intent is good and it reciprocates. So as you invest in someone, they invest in you equally. And maybe not always equally, but at least as equal as possible. And it's the same thing with the harvest. If we want a good harvest, we must plant good seed. So if you're not ready to plant a good relationship seed, don't get into a relationship with that person. Tell that person, hey, you seem like an interesting person, but I'm not interested in you. This is not a good place for me to plant my seed. Wait for those opportunities that you know are good, that you can plant your seed here and you know it's a good place for you to plant it so that you can get a good harvest. This is where you want to put your investment. This is where you want your investment to pay you dividends back. It's about reaping and sowing, putting good seed into the ground in a good place, putting a good investment in when it's a good time to invest, and knowing that when I do that the right way, I'm going to get the return that I want, which is going to be to reap a harvest that is bountiful and that reflects the wonderful seed that I put into the ground. If you do this, I promise you, you're going to benefit greatly from being able to understand and know that I planted great seed in the beginning, and when it's time for me to take my harvest, I'm going to get good seed back. So I wanted to share that tip with you. That's another good tip here from singleblackdatingtips.com, Doc Love, and just want you to stay with us, stay tuned to this channel. We got more coming for you, more things, more tips that I know are going to benefit you. Also check out my website, singleblackdatingtips.com, and just stay with us, all right? Peace.